Listen, every single word I said in all my press conference, even people don't believe me. Every word I said is because truly, truly, truly believe it. And when I defend the club and the people, it's because I work with them. And when I'm suspicious or the people accuse something, I ask to them, tell me what that. And when I said this was like this, like that, and like that, okay, I believe them. Because I said to them, if you lie to me, the day after I'm not here, I will be out and you will not be my friend anymore.
Hello and welcome to the Sound of Football podcast. I'm Graham Sibley, and as ever I'm joined by Jan Bilton.
Hello.
And Terry DeFellon.
Hello.
For our last episode of the regular season for 25-26. Yes, our 17th season gets wrapped up today. But of course, listeners, don't worry. Of course, our World Cup content starts coming out soon. Very, very soon, actually, just a couple of weeks away. One season ends and another one just begins almost instantly. A bit like Casualty, really. That's how that works anyway. But, of course, there's a lot less blood and terrible acting in this one. At least there is at the moment anyway. But it's a hot day. It's a hot day. Who knows what happens here? It's absolutely stinking hot today. We will try to maintain our cool in our reflections of the last week of the season. Now, of course, if you were listening last week, we thought we did a pretty bang-up job, didn't we, Terry, of putting meaning to what had happened over the weekend that we were talking about. And we felt quite good about ourselves after the podcast, didn't we?
We certainly did. We felt as though we had produced a really well-reasoned, analytical, evergreen piece of content that lasted about 5 minutes.
Yeah. I got over the news that Pep was going to leave. That rankled me, I must admit. I went to bed rankled. But I thought, no, don't worry, Graham. Just go in there, edit the podcast tomorrow, and everything will be fine. No, people will understand. But then something else happened, didn't it, Terry?
Yeah, I assume you're talking about Southampton.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So our sort of like thinkings that, maybe it would be best to park this and wait till after the final, and that really, tickets have been sold, hotel rooms been booked. It all feels a little bit hasty to be making these kind of decisions. Perhaps the best thing to do would be to not do anything drastic at this point. And that didn't happen either, although that take lasted a little bit longer than 5 minutes, to be fair.
I was actually on a train coming back from a work thing in Bristol. And I think it was you actually, Graham, shared some kind of screenshot. And I turned to the two colleagues I was with and showed them my phone and said, that can't be right. That cannot be right. And they both agreed. Like, this is some kind of wind-up or someone's got the wrong information here. And then it popped through from a BBC push notification on my colleague's phone. And that was the conversation for the rest of the train journey sorted for us about all of the different outcomes and scenarios that were going to happen over the next few days. Because obviously they were going to have an appeal the very next day. So speaking to my brother-in-law, who some of you may know is a Middlesbrough fan, he didn't really know whether he was actually going to the playoff final or not. Yeah, crazy time. I wouldn't say unprecedented, though, because if you remember, it was a long time ago, in one of the early playoff games in 1990, I think.
Yeah.
So Sunderland were in a final against Swindon Town. Swindon Town won the game fair and square 1-0, I think, and then was subsequently found to have had, I think the term used was financial irregularities, and were relegated from, so it was still the first division then, down to the third division, which is, now that is brutal. So getting kicked out of the playoffs and having 4 points taken off you is brutal enough, but I mean, it could have been a lot worse, much worse.
Yeah, Swindon were actually reprieved that relegation, weren't they? But they weren't allowed to go up, and Sunderland did instead, didn't they? Terry, has it made it a lot easier now that Hull actually won the game?
Yeah, I feel it's a little bit more elegant now that Hull have won the game. But it's a difficult one, this, isn't it? Because as pointed out in the commentary of the coverage of this game, Middlesbrough had like 3 opportunities to be promoted here, and they've dropped the ball on all 3 of them. So it's difficult to feel that much sympathy for them, while at the same time acknowledging that they were victims of a breach of the law. I'm still of the view that I feel the punishment was a little harsh, but irrespective, Middlesbrough were given another crack, yet another crack, and they've still failed to do it. And so, yeah, and I think also bearing in mind that Hull have clearly been mucked about again, really through no fault of their own, and through no fault of anybody else apart from Southampton. Obviously, they have been mucked about themselves, Hull, and so I think there is some elegance to what's actually happened, and Hull somewhat, unusually getting promoted from 6th place.
Yeah, did you think it was a harsh punishment? Did you think that they'd gone in too hard on this, or did you think the punishment fits the crime?
Yeah, I think the punishment fits the crime. They clearly tried to gain an advantage using illegal means, within the rules of the game, that is. If it was just in any other game, if it was a mid-season game, I think they might have just got a few points taken off them. The fact that it was a playoff game, and that is worth loads of money, that they had to make an example of them, I think justice was done. I think that they got everything they deserved, really. The one thing that is sad about the whole thing is that people are probably going to lose their jobs over this, that people that had nothing to do with it. As well as that, the young man, the intern who was told to go and do it.
Yeah.
I just hope that lad's been looked after. And when I mean looked after, I don't mean just bunged a few quid. He needs to be really helped out because sadly he's not central to it, but he's part of the opera, isn't he? And it's terrible the way they've treated a young intern.
The more you read about it, Terry, the worse it gets, isn't it?
Mm.
What do you think is going to happen to Tonda Eckert now?
There is every possibility that he will be suspended by the Football Association, because it's worth bearing in mind that this is all EFL action. This is the FA have yet to weigh in, and they are well within their rights to get stuck into this. So I imagine the FA will have their own investigation, and I think there's a very good possibility that Tonda Eckert will be suspended for a long time and no longer able to work. I think the only reason why he's not been fired at Southampton is probably because Southampton are trying to figure out who is left amongst Southampton management who is in a position to fire him without being fired themselves. Feels to me as though there needs to be a hollowing out at the top level of that club. I think a lot of people are going to have to go. And it's possible they're also waiting for the FA to make a decision to perhaps make it easier to fire him. If they fire him now, they might have to pay him out. We're not altogether certain how deep the rot is at that club and how much of it they were all in together, but it certainly feels as though there was a conspiracy within the club to do this. And that, it had happened more than once. It happened against Ipswich, and they did it against Oxford as well.
That we know about.
That we know about, and there may well have been more. Just returning to the interns, and this is just part of my own personal code, I suppose. I think that's one of the worst aspects of it, is the manipulation and exploitation of insecure young workers who are looking to try and get a foothold into an extremely competitive industry that's very difficult to find work in. I think that's just despicable. It's possible, yes, all right, that some of them may well have gone along with it and been happy to have gone along with it, but nevertheless, it is an exploitation and a manipulation of them, and that just really sticks in the craw. For me, personally, I accept that others might feel that that's maybe less of a priority, but on my own personal code of things that you shouldn't do, that's pretty high up. So I think on reflection, it's probably just about right. But I do think about the Southampton players on the assumption that they would have almost certainly had nothing to do with this. And I do think to an extent about the Southampton fans who would have been inconvenienced. But I'm more sanguine about inconveniencing football fans because football fans are there to be inconvenienced. Players lose their income. Well, yeah, all right, fair enough. Okay, so Southampton fans have booked some hotels, they've bought tickets. I mean, they have been inconvenienced, but that's all that's happened here.
Yeah.
Some of those players, they had opportunities to play in the Premier League, which has now been denied them. Significant amounts of money and income lost as a consequence. I think they've got every reason to be pretty angry at this point, and these are probably the people that I'm thinking of more than fans. I mean, like, fans turn up for games and they watch their team win and they watch their team lose. Some win more than the others, but that's just the way it is. And also the number of them that turned up there, when I think back on it now, and they all probably thought it was very funny with their binoculars. And I just thought, well, actually, now that we know what's happened, you just have to wonder whether or not that was entirely appropriate. Yeah, it's a mess, Graham. I think is probably what it is. It's a real mess.
I don't know what figure they're putting on the playoff final now, but some people say it's around 200 million, isn't it? I mean, that's the high end of the figure. But even clubs like Wrexham have the opportunity to be angry about this because they missed out on the playoffs that Southampton got into. So, yeah, it is an unholy mess, but I think it was very good that they did come down hard on this because there are so many times in football at the moment where clubs sail so close to the laws and go over it and expect the indignation of their support to carry them through whenever someone punishes them. And I think this way is good because it's just said, right, okay, no, sod it. We're actually going to come down really, really hard on you. And there's nothing you can do about it because there just isn't the time to do it. And you've been banged to rights as well. So actually, I think when they appealed, I think they should have had the punishment made even more. But maybe I'm a bit too cruel. So let's start off next season with the point deduction. I wonder if that will stick or not, but I can't see why it wouldn't at the moment.
No, because this all came about because of the whole Spygate 1, which was Leeds and Derby, wasn't it? And there was no precedent. So they leaned back on some existing laws, punished them 200,000, and then they introduced this new law. I suspect that the punishment is commensurate with that. I don't know what Southampton will do, but I think that the best thing to do is just to keep their heads down and try and just restore some kind of trust. It's trashed the reputation of that football club.
Yeah.
What players are going to want to play for that club at this point? I think there's every possibility they could be relegated at the end of next season because there could be an exodus of players who just want to leave, just want to get out. No one wants to come, no manager, possibly no management structure to fall back on. It could end really badly for Southampton, and I think very few people would feel that sorry for them outside of Southampton. I think you're right, Graham. In the end, it was good that they were decisive about it. And, everyone now knows what the consequences are for such things. And, I think it's pretty clear it's not going to happen again. Because they'll just have to come up with cleverer ways of cheating, of trying to gain an unfair advantage over their opponents, where you just end up paying a fine or indeed nothing at all.
Yeah, well, so that's what happened over the last week. And it helps you catch up, I suppose, listeners, with what we thought of the whole thing. And I think actually allowing a week for that story to mellow has helped us with our takes there. Otherwise, if we'd just been reacting to it on Tuesday after just hearing about it half an hour ago, we would have been all over the place, wouldn't we? So yes, it all worked out for the best, didn't it? The Pep news, however, yes, well, that's another thing entirely, isn't it? Jan, now, Pep said a few years back that if he ever found out that the club had lied to him, he would leave. Is there hope for West Ham yet, I wonder?
Well, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? I don't know, obviously, but It does. I mean, it's 10 years. It seems like a kind of a nice number to end on. 20 titles, if you count the Charity Shield, which you absolutely should.
Yes.
As Terry, I'm sure, will agree.
Super Cups don't count.
But it just,
now.
It did. Looking back, it does feel like it was coming. I think it was kind of an open secret, really, wasn't it? Certainly amongst the football writers. I mean, you get to 10 years, you've got 20 titles. The numbers look nice. Let's move on. However, there could well be a conspiracy at play here, which is far more interesting, in that those 115 charges could be coming home to roost, and maybe he's jumped before he's associated with it too closely. Not that I think he's be guilty of any wrongdoing. This is all financial. If it happens, of course, there'll be a huge blot on his copybook and his reputation will be tarnished. So I think maybe getting yourself away from it before it happens is a good thing to do. But I'm not sure that's even ever going to come out.
Well, yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to get resolved because it makes everyone look bad. It makes City look bad, obviously. And the fact it's taken so long makes the Premier League look bad as well. And then it'll just get dragged through the courts. So I don't know.
Terry, what do you think?
I thought it was really interesting what he said in his very eloquent, a beautifully written address. I was going to say speech, but I think it was more of address on that video, saying, why am I leaving? don't ask me why I'm leaving. And it's like, oh no, was it like, oh, why am I leaving? I don't know why I'm leaving. I'm just, and you're just thinking, it's possible you do know why you're leaving. And it is possible that, yeah, he's aware that something's coming and that this is the moment. But it is also true to say that he has 10 years at a job, and in this age of modern football, that is an eternity. I mean, it's not as physically as long as, say, Wenger's time at Arsenal or Ferguson's time at United, but it probably feels like that just simply because of the landscape of modern football, the narratives, the socials, just the everythingness of football that wasn't quite as everything in the past. And also, it does appear that the latest iteration of Guardiola City is not quite been able to compete with the competition. Well, there may be other reasons why they can't compete with the competition as well. But let's not go down that 115-mile road. So it could be that this feels like it's the right moment. And I know it's been spoken about, hasn't it? I think for a couple of seasons now, there's been suggestions that perhaps, when will Pep go? I mean, rather than if Pep will go. So he probably feels it's the right moment for him to bow out, rather than maybe then having to go in and recruit a new bunch of players to try and do it all over again. It is exhausting work. It's highly lucrative work, but it is exhausting work, mentally, physically very challenging, and 10 years of doing it. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't easily say that that's a perfectly prominent reason for him retiring or resigning at this point. But I don't think that it's out of the question that he is aware that something else is coming and wants to get out because he doesn't want to have to deal with that. And he's earned the right to not deal with it as well, Graham.
Oh, no, certainly. Because there aren't really many jobs for him to go into, unless he takes a different tack and goes into international management for a bit, takes a couple of years off, which I think seems likely. Might end up doing a Klopp and go and work as president in some huge multi-club ownership model, although he already was in a multi-club model, wasn't he? Yeah, and what would you do if you were Pep now?
I think he is still doing something with the City group.
Yeah.
But that said, I mean, he probably just needs to rest. I think in his personal life, he's had some dramas over the last year or so. You're right, an incredibly difficult and challenging role to constantly try and reinvent a side that's going to be competitive against in a very, very strong league is going to be draining for him. The only football, like direct coaching role I could think he would ever be interested in going to, imagine, would be the Spanish team. But, even then, as a Catalan independence advocate, so whether that's something that wouldn't appeal to him, I don't know. But that's the only one I can think of currently anyway. Obviously, if he takes a couple of years off, then the landscape could well be very, very different, and he may return to club management again.
It is very difficult to see what club would be the right fit for him, even in a couple of years' time, to be honest. It feels as though he's had such a long career. It is funny because he's only coached 3 sides.
Yeah.
Which is weird in a way for having such a long career. Is that what does this next challenge look like, and where would that go? I think it's probably unlikely he'd ever return to Barcelona. I think been there, done that. Barcelona's very different. Italy, I don't think would probably interest him. He's not going to be the kind of, I'll tell you what, I'll take a League 2 side and see if I can get him up. I don't think that, he's not a football manager kind of football manager. I mean, I don't think he knows perfectly well that's just not how it works. If you want to be the best coach in the world, you have to have the best players in the world. It's just how it is, that is how it is. So, I mean, at the moment, unless he was to sort of like take an MLS job, maybe conquer the new worlds, so to speak, go to Saudi, I don't think he's incapable of taking those kind of roles, but it feels more likely that a sabbatical, go back to New York maybe, like he did after the Barcelona job, take a bit of time, find himself, and then see what the next challenge is. I mean, there'll be no shortage of offers, of course. But yeah, I mean, I guess he's got to think about his legacy and his reputation. I mean, the next job will be important for him because the next job is the one that he could get wrong because it's not the right club for him. It's not the right fit for him. Mm. He's not been lucky because he's a very good coach and with a very clear idea, a very clear plan. But only the top clubs have gone for him. And, in many respects, it's difficult to find how many more worlds there truly are for him to conquer. You know, there isn't another Bayern Munich for him to go to. The only other sort of like top club in Spain that he could go to would be Real Madrid, which obviously is out of the question. Italy, I think, as I said, is not really an option for him. Back to England, seems hard to imagine him coaching another team in England. And I don't think that he would have the necessary control to be able to coach at national team level. I think national team for international football is too chaotic. And I don't think he'd be able to make that work. But who knows?
Who knows indeed? Who knows? Well, I'm sure Pep has a little inkling anyway. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he truly is just going off and thinking, hey, I've got to get out of this place before I get pulled down with it. But maybe that's just me. But anyway, he had his send-off with his team that didn't win the title. Yes, this time we talked about that as well.
Anyway, I got to go, guys. Sorry to...
You sit right there. You sit right there.
And now we move on to the liars.
Yes, we do. Oh, yes. And that's why this episode is 3 hours long. Yeah, Arsenal did get over the line on their sofa. Yes, in the best way to win the league, while watching it on telly. Yeah, it was close against Bournemouth. They pushed Bournemouth all the way to the end, but that draw in the penultimate game, the night after Arsenal beat Burnley, was enough to secure Arsenal their first title in 22 years. And yes, I'm very happy. I'm very happy, guys. Thanks for asking. Yeah, it was very emotional, but yes, what a relief. What a relief. Jan, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, it's not going to be a very memorable season, this one, is it? Because Arsenal are so horrible and everyone hates them. But how did you find this season? Your own club, notwithstanding, we're going to come to that very, very soon.
Yes.
It's next on my list, okay? We're talking a little bit about Arsenal first, but trust me, Sunderland's on its way.
Yeah, I was pleased that Arsenal won, not just because you're my friend, Grim, but, you know, they've been so close for so long and they've got better and better, I think, every single season. And there was obviously some drama along the way and it looked like they were going to lose out and City were going to overtake them. But in the end, they prevailed and it was just great to see that outpouring of joy because often titles and FA Cups and things like that won by clubs and they're just like, yeah, okay, just shove it with the rest. But there was a genuine... Interesting you used the word relief from Arsenal. They were so pent up for so long. They just needed it. They needed the title to prove that their project was right and it was going to yield results. So I was really pleased. It could be the start of something really special with all of the changes we've seen elsewhere. We just talked about Pep leaving City. So it feels like the Premier League's maybe going to go through some further transformation over the summer and into next year. And I think Arsenal are going to come out of this particular season almost creating a legacy, if you like, because I think they're that strong. That defence it was confirmed after the final game, is the strongest defence in all of Europe, of the major divisions. And going into the Champions League final, as they will, not as favourites, some people are saying, but with a defence that miserly, I think it stands them in good stead. So, yeah, well done, Arsenal. A great achievement.
Yeah, Terry, I suppose it's been difficult to assess how the season has gone because clubs that were expected to do well, like Chelsea, ended up 10th in the table. Liverpool started off strong. They won their first 5 games. They were 5 points clear after 5 games. Looked like they were going to coast to another title. Ended up 25 points short of Arsenal. Man United had their trials. They obviously sacked Ruben Amorim. Ended up 3rd in the table. Finished really strong under Michael Carrick. But I suppose all these other things where you've got a lot of these middle-class clubs doing really well, getting European places, and then, of course, Tottenham having to fight on the last day to stay up. Has this made it actually an interesting season in the Premier League? And is it because all the normal narratives are out the window that people struggle to actually understand what's going on?
Yeah, it's been an interesting and somewhat different Premier League season. Right from the off, really, where it became apparent that there seemed to have been a kind of tactical shift in the Premier League and that people were saying, I think rightly, comparing, modern Premier League football with 90s football. And then, to complement that, we have a very, very early 90s football team winning the league. I mean, not direct tactical comparisons to be made, I'm sure, although I don't know. You'd have to ask the tactician. But Arteta's Arsenal is evocative for me of George Graham's Arsenal, not Graham Sibley's Arsenal. Nobody wants to see Graham Sibley's Arsenal. I think there's an authenticity about Arsenal this season and about the way that they play. And that authenticity is also carried on in the way they're perceived because, people don't like them. And they've been particularly hard on them because they don't like the way they play football. But this is, this is pre-Wenger Arsenal. This is the glory days of the early 90s when, under George Graham and the late 80s, early 90s when they won 2 titles. And they were very direct, very physical, very, very, very defensive side. And I think that has put a cap on the general interestingness of the season. And now, as you just say, Graham, where you've got the usual suspects underperforming this season to an extent that has allowed Arsenal, to an extent, yes, to be able to take that title. But when I say that, I'm not in any way attempting to diminish the achievement at all, because I can only imagine how difficult it must be to win a league title, to be that consistently good over the course of the season. And then when you consider that it did look like they had blown it again, only to not, does hint at some title-winning character. I'm very happy for Arsenal fans, and I'm very happy for you, Graham. Congratulations. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm sure you did. Whether or not there's a legacy or a dynasty to be had here, I don't know. But I think the more pressing thing is, what does this do to Arsenal in terms of the next Champions League? So I think most people, including myself, took the view that PSG would win this. But now that it's happened, now that Arsenal have won and seem to have come away relatively unscathed, we're then faced with the reality, well, hang on a second, it's not easy defending the Champions League. And Arsenal are the Premier League champions with, as Jan's pointed out, the best defence in Europe. So, there is an opportunity for genuine immortality for Arsenal. The season is not over yet.
No, it would be remarkable for PSG to retain the Champions League. The last team that wasn't Real Madrid to retain the Champions League, I think, was Milan, all the way back in 1990.
Yeah.
I looked at some stats the other day, talking about what sort of achievement Arteta has made this season and why it's been such a struggle, and why oftentimes it doesn't look pretty because they have concentrated so much on their defence. But in the Champions League era, only 2 managers have been able to win the title and get to the Champions League final. And that's Guardiola and Ferguson. They're the only people before this season to do that. And Arteta is now amongst them. Now, it's not only that, but of all the other managers, over the last 20 years, none of them have been able to win the title and even get past the round of 16. So that's a real step forward. You look at people like Ancelotti, Mourinho when he came back, Slot, Klopp, none of them made it past the round of 16. Mancini didn't even get out the group stage when he won the title. So it is difficult to fight on both of those fronts, and it takes a remarkable manager like Guardiola, like Ferguson, to be able to do that. And maybe things have fallen in line for Arsenal. We didn't take advantage when Leicester won the title when everyone else was in disarray. We took advantage this season when everyone was in disarray. But still, finishing with, 84 points, that should win you a title. We've got used to, I think, of having to get 90 points to get over the line, or even getting 90 points and not getting over the line, like Liverpool a few years back. But I think this has been a much more competitive season, and we've seen that. You look at Villa, finished 4th with 65 points. That's the lowest that someone has finished 4th on, got the Champions League for 20 years. Liverpool have managed to get in the Champions League with 60 points. That equals the record for getting into the Champions League on points, but of course it goes down to 5th. So very, very competitive. But Jan, the great example of how competitive and how mixed up this whole league has been this season is the fact that you look at the 2 teams in the Europa League places, not far off the Champions League places as well. There's not a gulf between them and Liverpool. And that's Bournemouth in 6th place, and of course your own Sunderland in 7th place. Now, what were you going through when you were watching that awful, awful game against Chelsea yesterday?
When it became obvious we're going to win, when Chelsea went down to 10 men, I was kind of going through all the permutations with my son, and he was like, if it stays like this, every sentence started like that, because there's still a little bit of nerves. Then we're in the Europa League, which is incredible. To be honest with you, it wasn't until the final whistle that it kind of really sunk in that this is our most successful season in my lifetime. To be promoted to the Premier League, to survive comfortably, to finish 7th, which they have done before in the past, finish 7th, but to finish 7th and qualify for the Europa League, Europe's second competition, I mean, that is just unbelievable. And it was great to see the outpouring of joy and happiness amongst my fellow Mackhams, but also with the players as well. And some of the players in particular that came up, I mean, some of them were bold and ambitious with their signings this season, and that came at the expense of some of the players that got us there. But to see Try Hume and Luke O'Nien and Dan Ballard and Chris Rigg all kind of celebrating that. There was even one point where they didn't know where they'd finished. No one could get a signal because there's nearly 50,000 people in the ground, all on the same network. Anyway, they got one and they were all huddled around the mobile phone, so they were seventh and so they were going to play in the Europa League. So that was wonderful as well, because those players have really put in a shift this season, and there are times where we'd gone down, and I think that any newly promoted side, as we've seen over many, many seasons, that goes behind to a Liverpool normally just go, well, that's it, and we've lost this. And there have been times where Sunderland could have done that and didn't, and they just kept on going, and to finish seventh is just incredible. It's like I said, they won the cup in '73. I was yet to be born. They did go into Europe that season, but promotions and cup final appearances and the Papa John's Trophy, let's not forget that, does not even come close to getting into the Europa League. And we might go there and embarrass ourselves, and so what? But to get in there, it's going to be incredible. And I was just looking through some of the clubs that are joining us with Bournemouth. It was just mind blowing. So this is Sunderland, right? Could be playing AC Milan, Juventus, Sociedad, Hoffenheim, Leverkusen, Marseille. The list goes on. So it's going to be amazing. I hope I'm going to get to go out to somewhere in Europe and see us play. But if I don't, Thursday night it is on the telly. I'm overjoyed, as you can tell by my lack of coherent speech.
Well, of course, Terry, Palace could be there as well if they win the Conference League final on Wednesday. It could be Sunderland and Palace in the Europa League next season, couldn't it? But first, let's talk a little bit about Sunderland. Now, we're quite open to modern stats, aren't we? XG, we've accepted, haven't we? But I was looking on Understat, and I looked at the Premier League table, and they've got the stat on there of expected points, which is what the natural conclusion of expected goals is. And Sunderland are 18th on expected points. They are between Wolves and Forest on the expected points table, on expected points of 42. And just for context, Wolves have expected points of 35. Forest is 42.24. And just so you know, listeners, Arsenal finished that table top as well.
Yeah.
And Palace are higher in the table. They're actually more like mid-table on 53. Yeah, so they've defied the odds there, haven't they, really? They've really pulled results out of next to nothing, haven't they? And this has been going all season long. It's going to be a lot harder for them when they do have that Thursday night football, as you'd attest to for the season that Palace have had.
Yeah, I mean, Sunderland's expected season was pretty much Jan Bilton's expected season, wasn't it?
Spot on, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Jan said, that's what would happen. But now it hasn't happened. They've defied the stats. But of course, the concern will be that you can't continue to do that at some point, as the statisticians will say, you will regress to the mean. The good news is that Sunderland have got the entire summer to look at that, and that they have access to even better stats than Understat have. And so we'll hopefully then be able to gain the necessary insights to be able to do the kind of recruitment that they need to do. The only word of caution that I'd strike is those Thursday nights are absolutely punishing. And Palace are in the Conference League, so they played actually 2 fixtures less than the Europa League. It's going to be a very, very tough second season up for Sunderland. So it is objectively good news. But my goodness, there are some significant challenges facing Sunderland next season. And European football will not help, even though it will also be great.
Yes, well, yes.
It'll be great, but unhelpful.
What is good, though, no, it's fine. And I didn't want to go on the doom and gloom route, so I'm glad that you took it. So, but the point is that finishing 7th in the Premier League in the style in which we did, and having already attracted some real good quality players, and finishing 7th brings a huge financial windfall as well, means that hopefully we'll be able to afford the kind of players that we need and the depth we need to be able to play across two big competitions. It's going to be fun finding out how that's all going to go. I think I'm actually really looking forward to this now, whereas I wasn't looking forward to this season at all. And as you remember, we were probably safe, a few months back, but it didn't. I was still asking Gemini, "Are you sure we're going to be okay?" Yeah, we did it. I can't get off this cloud. I really can't. The Sunderland are playing in Europe, man. That is amazing. That really is amazing, and an absolute joy and pleasure to behold.
Well, actually, one team you didn't mention on the teams that you could possibly be playing next season is the Portuguese Cup winners, Torriense. If you've never heard of Torriense before, that's not a gap in your knowledge. Well, it is, but it's not a serious gap in your knowledge because they are a second division side at the moment. They're in a playoff at the moment with Casapia. The second leg is coming up this week, I think. But they won the cup at the weekend. They won the Taça de Portugal against Sporting in extra time. They won it 2-1. And yes, they are become the first second division Portuguese club to win the title. So yeah, that's one for you to put in your diary there, Jan, if you get those in the league phase.
Yeah, that'd be good. I mean, I love going to Portugal. That'd be a good excuse to go there. And Italy and France.
Well, as we said, Terry, Palace could be in the Europa League phase. They just got the small matter of beating Rayo Vallecano. What is your feeling about the match coming up on Wednesday now? I know we talked briefly about it last week, but now it's real. Come on, it's getting real now, isn't it?
It is indeed getting real. My worry is that everyone's saying Palace are going to win that game because Palace are the Premier League side. But my own, obviously, any Palace fan would not really sort of look at it like that. It is very difficult. It's really odd. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week because we talked about Villa and Freiburg, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I didn't mean, I may have been a little bit unkind to Villa because, I mean, they haven't won a trophy in a very long time themselves. There's no way this is not a special moment for them winning the Europa League. Mm. But, the reality is that all the Premier League clubs, they pay so much more. They have the better players. And even if you go down into the middle class clubs, they can challenge most clubs, I think, in Europe. And so that tends to make them favourites in European competitions. And that's what we're going through at the moment. So I think objectively, you look at where Palace are and where Vallecano are and go, yeah, Palace should win that game. But fortunately, football is not like that, because if it was like that, we just wouldn't watch it. But unfortunately, it means that I get to sit here for another few days and sweat, and that's not just because of the good weather. I am rightly nervous about it all, and should be, because it's a cup final and you're supposed to be nervous about these sort of things.
I'm strangely sanguine about our cup final, but that's because we've already won something. So and we've got European competition as well next season. There is a section of Arsenal fans who think that it's a free hit at the Champions League because it's been so long since we've been there. And I think I'm inclined to agree with them. Of course, for Palace, this is big. This is a European final. And the expectation is, yes, you've been to quite a few finals recently, but there has been the expectation that you'd win. Even when you go back to playoff finals, you never really had that expectation to win, did you? So
no, because you're in a close competition with an evenly matched side. And so, you don't know. And then when we won the cup, obviously, we were playing Manchester City and we were expecting to lose. This is different. Going in as clear favourites brings a different kind of tension and an unfamiliar one for all Palace fans, because we're not used to being favourites to win anything. So that's just the weirdness of this situation. But it is also necessary because in pretty much every other respect, the Community Shield notwithstanding, in terms of the Premier League, it has been a terrible season. So this really will put meaning on the end of the season. It suddenly goes from being what has actually been a poor season to being an amazing season. And that's just where we are at the moment. That is our life under Oliver Glasner these last 2 and a bit years. It's just been pure chaos and extremes. And that's about to come to an end. And it will come to end on an extreme. And it will either be extreme disappointment or extreme elation. And so we'll find out what that's going to be on Wednesday. It will be amazing to win. Of course, it will be amazing to win. Another trophy, another one, because it may well be our last for a long time. But I believe I said all that last week, so I shall shut up now about Palace and the Conference League.
Are you going to watch it on a ferry Terry?
Well,
It's what all the
Nice
listeners want to know the
callback.
answer to
Nice
this question.
callback, Jan.
so no, I won't be watching it on Fenner Ferry, unfortunately. Although it's been suggested that some kind of makeshift dinghy be set up and put in the garden of my house where I am watching it, and that maybe I'll watch it on that. So I'll keep you informed. Unfortunately, it wasn't really practical for me to go to Leipzig for reasons, which is kind of disappointing. But no, it's fine. I'll figure something out and find out a way of watching it that maybe sort of like help the lads on. Anything I can do for the lads. Anything I can do to make it about me rather than about the players who actually play the game. I will do my best, obviously.
I think it's Palace's, because they basically start a goal up anyway, because Ismaili Sarr is playing and he absolutely loves this competition. Really, listen, have a look at his stats for this season. They are ridiculous, aren't they, Terry?
Conference League top scorer. Yeah, if he plays in the Conference League, he scores a goal. Yeah, it would be disappointing if that streak was to end here. The other key is whether or not Wharton is fixed. I don't know, because that lovely man, Miles Lewis-Skelly, who we've spoken about in such glowing terms in the podcast in recent times, did a bit of a number on him at the weekend. So we don't know if Wharton will play. So there's a bit of an issue there. So we'll probably start with Strand Larsen up front like we normally do, and then bring on Mateta towards the end of the game. And you feel, without having seen Vallecano too much, but you feel that Palace probably have the superior athleticism and the stamina to see this one through. But I don't know. It's just too awful. I hate football sometimes.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, I think we've rattled through pretty much everything. Well, what's this? Oh, Spurs stay up. Should we bother?
Yeah.
Nah.
Nah.
I mean, just maybe sympathy and love to Chris Oakley, once of this parish, for West Ham supporting Chris Oakley for relegation.
Yeah, Chris, we're still believing. We're still thinking that those 115 charges will come to your rescue. Don't worry. And West Ham never hang about in the Championship, do they?
That's been a long time since they've been in the Championship, and even by West Ham standards, that club is in a bit of disarray.
I'm trying to think. I think they've only spent, in the Premier League era, 3 seasons outside of it.
It is dangerous for them, obviously. Clubs that have been historically mismanaged.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my own here. West Ham need to get their act sorted, sharpish, because they've made some bad decisions consistently. They really risk dropping into the mire if they don't sort themselves out quickly.
They're a cautionary tale for other middle-class clubs as well as to what happens if you get complacent. And you have to feel that perhaps West Ham just figured that they were too big to be relegated. Just maybe at the highest level, that they just maybe just couldn't believe. Look at this massive stadium that we've got. Look at all these tickets we're selling. But their recruitment's not been good, either for players or for coaches. And they've been, and then you've seen Brighton, Bournemouth, Fulham, to an extent, Palace boxing a little bit cleverer. Certainly Bournemouth and Brighton boxing a lot cleverer, and West Ham have kind of been left behind. And now we see where they are. And now they've got to shift that wage bill pretty pronto. They've got to shift a load of money off that wage bill. They've got to probably find a new coach and, a new recruitment thing, and playing in an unfamiliar league. And you have to wonder whether or not the ownership and management are up to it. So I think there are lots of questions about West Ham. It's not guaranteed an immediate return, and you're right, Graham, they do tend to bounce back historically, don't they? But
yes. Yeah, well, we'll see. Interesting times ahead for West Ham, but at least as you were talking about that big ground they've got, that's going to be cheaper for them, even cheaper for them to rent next season because of part of the Boris Johnson deal that they won. Yeah, the taxpayers of London will have to pay an extra £2.5 million to cover up the revenue that they won't be getting from West Ham because the rent drops. The rent that was pretty much nothing anyway is going down even more because they've been relegated. Well, yes. Anyway, of course there's no box set for me to finish up the episode with, so it really is just for me to say thank you, listeners, for being here this season. Again, we know you have a choice, and apologies to Libro Podcast for last week. Obviously, our takes were completely out of date, so you obviously didn't have anything to go on for your own podcast. Sorry about that. We'll do better next time, promise. Terry, anything you want to say about the season and looking ahead?
You know what, Graham? I believe I may have said quite a lot already about this season.
Yeah.
I will add my personal thanks to the listeners for listening and looking forward to the World Cup. I am.
Yes.
I didn't think I would be, but now that the World Cup is almost upon us, it does that to me every 4 years. Bloody World Cup. God, it's just an abomination. And then 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out, and it's like, World Cup. Where's my wall chart? Well, actually, it's downstairs, Graham. It's where it is.
Your Audible wall chart will be here in a couple of weeks' time. I'm sure, Jan. I'm sure even you with your international football grumbleness. It's a World Cup. Come on, you must be getting excited, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, competitions are fine. It's just the qualification I find utterly dull. So no, I'm looking forward to the World Cup. It won't be as exciting for me as the last one because I unfortunately got made redundant before the last World Cup. Which I was like, oh, that's terrible. Then I went, but I do get to watch every game of the World Cup, which was great. I'm hoping the same doesn't happen this time, but it looks like I'll be staying up fairly late to watch the games, and hoping there's a morning digest or something I can get through on the train on the way to work. But yeah, it should be interesting. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, yes, listeners, we will be back in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks' time with our World Cup preview. And then we'll be with you every week throughout the tournament. So I think we'll be coming with 7 episodes this summer because this World Cup goes on forever. But more about that next time, okay? We've already said enough. That's all we have time for this season. So from me, Graham Sibley, from Jan Bilton, and from Terry Felon, it's goodbye.
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 Get in touch with us on Blue Sky or Instagram, where we are at Sound of Football, or go to sofpodcast.com. Like us, share us, rate us and review us. Do it now! Hot.
It is.
Hot. I might change my shirt after this. Might have a shower after this.
You do that, Graham.
Yeah, Graham, you just
I'll turn the camera
do
off.
Yeah, I think we might check out of the call when we're finished. So don't worry about that. You can leave it on if you want to. It's not a problem.